Welcome. In front of me I have the Samsung Galaxy M53, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this phone. So anyway, let's get started by opening it up. Okay, so there we go. That's basically all we get in a box, a cable and a phone. So now going into the specs of the phone, we are looking at 6.7 inch display. It's a 1080p by 2408 pixels display. It's also a Super AMOLED display plus. I assume plus just refers to the refresh rate, which is 120 hertz. And once booted up, you can see our majestic battery level at 69. Nice. So we can now, or at least I can now go to the setup. I'm gonna do a fairly quick one, though, because this is Samsung. I'm gonna be introduced with a couple idiotic things, as I always am. So should be able to see one right here. Wi-Fi connection. Try to skip. Nah. You need to connect to Wi-Fi on your brand new device. You don't have Wi-Fi network near you? Too effing bad. Okay, so now that it's gonna connect to it, I can finish up the stupid setup. Or I'm gonna type it in incorrectly. There we go. And the next thing that we're gonna be introduced here throughout the setup is service provider setup. Though I don't have a SIM card inserted, so why the F am I supposed to restart my device? What service? From which provider? Anyway, once we get aggravated by the stupidest setup of all the devices, we can then reboot our device and continue our actual setup. But while this is rebooting, I'm just gonna quickly go into the specs. So if we flip over the device, we are looking at a quad camera setup. Now, I can already tell you that this is not really a quad camera setup. This is a most likely a dual camera setup, looking at the specs right here. So we're looking at a main sensor of 108 megapixel wide sensor. Then we got an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and then the two trash cameras, depth and macro at 2 megapixels. Those don't count. They shouldn't even be here. You paying for trash lenses that don't really give you anything. And let's be honest, this doesn't look that much worse. But the price should be a little bit lower because of this. Now, the reason why I trash these cameras is because they are absolutely effing useless. 2 megapixel macro, I'm not sure what you're gonna do with that because you have a 108 megapixel sensor. And once I set up the device, I can show you what effing insult that is to include this camera to your in your phone. You literally just got scammed. That's how I can define this. 2 megapixel depth and macro cameras are a scam. That's what they are. The only reason why they exist on the phones is because manufacturers think that their buyers are absolute effing morons and look at the phone and be like, ooh, shiny, 4 cameras, must be good. no one looks at it like that, Samsung. So now that the phone is getting ready, that's another amazing thing. It's going to be getting ready for some time, so just give it a couple minutes. Apparently the best, supposedly the best manufacturer on the market can't really do a quick setup of the phone. So let's touch upon the front camera, which is a 32 megapixel wide sensor. Now with the back cameras, we can shoot at 4K 30 frames and 1080p at 30 and 60 frames. So we do have a fairly okay-ish video recording capability here, but to be completely honest, this phone comes at around nearly 500 euros, so that shouldn't be a surprise. I believe at that price tag, it should also come close to recording at 4K 60. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer here. Select our search engine. Come on. Now another thing right here is the processor for 500 or roughly 500 euros, maybe a little bit less. You're getting not a Snapdragon, you're getting a Dimensity 900. Now Dimensity 900 is, I think, one of their little bit better processors. They most certainly have worse ones, but still the Dimensity is more on like a budget side, where the manufacturer just wants their phone to work and sell it at cheap prices. This isn't coming at a cheap price, to be honest. At $500, I expect this phone to be rocking a Snapdragon 700 and something, not Dimensity 900. And yeah, to be completely honest, this just feels like an absolute scam. For this price that this costs, I'm gonna give you a outstanding alternative phone. And some people might say that I'm shilling, but I'll explain why I consider the phone to be better. So that would be the Xiaomi 12X, specifically the X. The 12 and 12 Pro are more expensive. They're basically flagship grade. The X is more of a mid-range phone that packs a lot of the features that you would expect from a flagship. Now, I personally like it just because it has curved display and under fingerprint sensor with 120 Hz refresh rate. So it meets a lot of the things that I want. Obviously, it's going to have a better camera, better processor, just work generally better. I think it has a little bit of a smaller battery cell than this one, but let's be honest, when you're paying for the device roughly the same price, let me actually just make sure I am correct about this one, because if I'm not, that would be a little bit of a stupid comparison. Okay, so we're looking at price tag of a little bit over 500 euros, 550. I would say this is close enough to be compared, considering how much better the phone is. Now I'll mention one probably more important aspect. The 12X Xiaomi is significantly smaller. The device is at 6.2 inches, while this is at 6.7. So this has a significantly bigger display. But still, in terms of quality, I think Xiaomi would give you a much better experience in every kind of aspect. So that would be my recommendation for the device. And just to put that out there, here, like I mentioned before with the cameras, you can record at 4K 30 frames max. The Xiaomi 12X records at 8K 24 or 4K 30 and 60. And obviously at 1080p it just has like slow motions and everything that we'd expect. So yeah, for the price that this costs, don't go for it. That would be my general recommendation. This phone just honestly feels like a scam. Even Samsung, I think, in their own lineup has better devices at maybe a little bit more, but obviously you're gonna get a much better specifications. So finishing this off, even though I wouldn't recommend buying this, and I do understand that some people already did. Let's continue. So like I said, Dimensity 900, we get 6 or 8 gigs of RAM depending on which storage you go for. We have 128 with 6, 128 gig storage with 8 gigs, and then 256 only with 8. And the phone that I have right here comes with it's the lowest one spec'd, so 128 with 6 gigs of RAM. So obviously the price tag of like nearly 500 euros is on the lower end of the phone, though to be honest, the price may vary depending on where you're buying, what kind of vendor, and what kind of markup they have, so just keep that in mind when purchasing this phone. And last things last, battery. Like I said, we're looking at 5000 milliamp hours, and we have supposedly fast charging, which is a hilarious way to describe Samsung charging speeds, at 25 watts. Yeah, that's not fast charging, that's barely even charging. And obviously we don't get a charger, so you need to buy one separately. Oh right, the Xiaomi that I was talking about, it comes with a, what was it, 60 or 80 watt charger. So yeah, let's be honest, this phone doesn't compare to a lot of other phones nowadays. So that's basically all I can say about this phone. Now to finish this off and summarize this, the entire package right here is what you would expect from Samsung. It's an overpriced device, sold for, I guess, fanboys, because apparently Samsung is turning into what Apple has already done, and is selling overpriced devices that aren't worth the money for people that will pay it because they think Samsung good, while you're getting literally scammed here. This is the closest thing I can compare to a scam. Now, to people that think that I might be shilling for Xiaomi, to be honest, I just like that, their approach. They have decent phones for reasonable price. There are obviously other companies that also will compare to this, to Xiaomi, though because I tend to gravitate towards that brand, just because they usually, and I say usually, not always, provide a decent budget devices, or decent phones for a reasonable price, more like. That's kind of what I gravitate to, and that's what I will remember primarily. Obviously there are maybe not better, but there are other phones that will meet the same requirements from a different brand, but let's be honest, it's not Samsung, so yeah. So that being said, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.